FM, the new fresh sound.
Rise and shine. Let's get ready to take on the day. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
And the time is now 7:45 here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you're listening to Ari, and with me in studio is Christal this morning, and we are Activated Mornings. Now we have to talk about two unfortunate events that happened over the weekend. Namely, a lifeless body was discovered in Kingstown. I think the news was first broken by One News St. Vincent, the headline reads, "A lifeless body discovered in Kingstown." The lifeless body of a man was discovered on the street of Kingstown near the Public Health Department around 8:40 a.m. Sunday, January 21st, 2024. The man, Rudolph Pollard, 61 of Redemption Sharps, is reported to have run out of the hospital on January 19th. According to reports, he was stabbed days ago and then hospitalized, but he left the hospital on his own accord. Hospital security was able to retrieve him after his first escape attempt, but he escaped from the hospital a second time. Police say there is no sign of foul play so far. But I'm curious, Crystal, if he went to the hospital for stabbing, he tried to escape, and upon escaping again, he was found dead. Who would you say is responsible? Is he himself responsible, or is the person did he later succumb to the stab wounds inflicted on him by the other person?
That's the first thing that still came into my mind. Is this a homicide? Is this manslaughter? Is this wounding? What does it boil down to? If a part of his story is that he left the hospital willingly while he was getting care. Was it grievous bodily harm? Right. So if he willingly refused treatment, then dying in the process, what happens to the person who inflicts the wound? I think I read one of the stories. One of the stories said that they are treating it as a homicide.
Really?
Well, homicide investigators are looking into it because
they've been assigned to the case,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I guess they're looking at if he was not stabbed, then he would not have had to be in position to leave the hospital because he would not have been in the hospital. But the story on Eyewitness also mentions that he entered a business place, and the person, after 5 a.m, that same morning, Sunday morning, and they told him to leave. They don't want him to die there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bit disheartening. Was it that he was trying to get help, or he was just trying to maybe get something to eat, get something to drink? But the way I don't know, the way things are jumping out at me. Was he somebody who was homeless? Was he somebody who would be on the street often? Because it also said that he went somewhere on Sunday morning to get a meal from one of those kitchens. Was it Sunday morning? One of those days. Was he somebody who was mentally well as well? Was he a troublemaker? Was he a calm person? How did he ended up getting stabbed? And look at the age too. And it wasn't reported to the police at the time that he got stabbed. If somebody shows up at the hospital with a stab wound, what are the obligations of the nurses and doctors? Do they have to call the police and say, "Hey, we have a patient with a stab wound," but the patient is unwilling to say? Or does the patient, the recipient of the stabbing or the wound, have to get up and go and say, "This is somebody, this is what happened to me"? Does a responsibility fall on them at that point once they enter a medical facility?
I do believe that this just goes to show how, as Caribbean people, we could be a bit insensitive towards certain situations. because you're at the establishment. The guy comes in, and according to Eyewitness News, he has IV lines protruding from his body. And your first response isn't, let me get him back to the hospital. Your first thought is, hey, move from here, do that in my place. That's alarming. But is it not common?
I don't know. It just sounds to me like, was he somebody who was known to that place?
I don't know. But I have seen, like, if there's a fighting, a stabbing, or chopping, and somebody run into somewhere to seek refuge, a business place, you would hear the owner or the manager saying, hey, don't come in here to bleed, or don't bring that here, or, you know what I mean? Not, let me call the police, let me try to de-escalate the situation with police intervention. It's always, don't die here, don't bleed here, don't bring that here.
Yeah, nobody wants their establishment to be a crime scene, or for them to have to be a witness in anything. You know, I think maybe fair like chipped in for some people, which is it is sad that like the human element and wanting to save somebody, help somebody, does not chip in 1st. But I think this story leaves like so many unanswered questions. So on Friday, he willingly left the hospital after being taken, and he was taken by family members
to the hospital.
Right. So he didn't go on his own accord. He left on Friday, but on Sunday he still had the eye in his hand. If mentally you were sound, or right, if you were mentally sound, you might have taken that out yourself or gone somewhere else to have it taken out. You leave the IV, everything still intact in your hand, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Something is not right about
could
this.
Be somebody suffering from a mental illness. But what I'm curious about is, if it is that I punch someone in the head, 2 weeks pass and then they pass away, did I commit murder?
You will be liable for an offense. That's one thing. Because if he wasn't punched in the head, then he would not have died.
Oh, we don't know that if 2 weeks pass.
2 weeks. Is there a timeline? Because there were instances where people would have been in the hospital for a period of time, but they were nursing injuries from a stab or some sort of wound from an individual.
The reason
if they ended up dying because of that, then the person is charged.
The reason why I asked is because Eyewitness News reported it as he was stabbed in the abdomen about 2 weeks ago, but the wounding was never reported to the police. So they said that one of Pollard's relative took him to the hospital, like he said, but Pollard discharged himself from the healthcare facility on Friday, leaving his IV lines behind. Police were searching for the injured man, but did not locate him until they responded to the report Sunday morning. People who saw Pollard's body said it still had connections for the IV lines
protruding.
Yeah, sorry, I tried to read the next line immediately.
Stick up in there. Take a call. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I think it's going to be some of the manslaughter case. Because as Christal said a while ago, you call bodily harm to someone, they end up in the hospital, they spend a month, 2 days, 3 days a week, and then like the pastor, it comes as a manslaughter. So most likely manslaughter.
Okay.
Most likely someone with a legal mind could come and give you more excitement, but by how we know, most likely it will be manslaughter.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for your contribution. Remember the number to call on WhatsApp 457-9997. Like I know, like once you cause the death of somebody else is a manslaughter, but because he did not stay for treatment and it was his choice not to, then does that change the narrative in a way?
Yeah, and then we don't know what happened between Friday and Sunday.
Yeah.
And then if he was stabbed 2 weeks ago, we don't know what happened between the 2 weeks. So we don't know if the person who stabbed him was the person responsible for his death. That's what my thought process was.
Was he at home just sitting down with that wound, not telling anybody?
Yeah.
Hello, good morning.
Still, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Adolphus Delfish. Murder under the laws of St. Vincent is where somebody with malice aforethought, implied or expressed, under the Queen's peace, with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, inflict injury to somebody. Manslaughter is where you cause the death of somebody without malice. It doesn't have any time limit to that. In terms of time doesn't determine whether or not it's murder or manslaughter. It's the mental intent that determines what the offense is. Now, murder can occur in St. Vincent within a year and a day. Once the postmortem shows that the person died from the injury sustained, it is a homicide. Homicide is a broad umbrella. Under homicide, you have murder, manslaughter, infanticide, and some other sides. Understand?
Mm-hmm.
So even if this person lives up to a year and a day, and he died from the injury sustained, it could be a murder. The mental element will determine what the offense is. Thank you very much.
All right.
Delpish, before you leave, if it is a case, because it said that it happened 2 weeks ago, and someone stabbed him, and within the 2 weeks, he got in a fight with someone else and was injured in the same spot, then who is liable?
So I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
Two of
The
them.
evidence will show. The evidence will determine who is liable.
Yeah, that was my thought process with the 2 weeks.
If he died from the old injury, how do you know if the old injury or the new injury? That's a case for investigation.
But then they might say, if he didn't have the old injury, the new injury would not have been so detrimental.
That's
So
a
it might-
possibility. There's a principle in law called the tin skull rule, where you take your victim as you get him or her. Had it not been, we call it but for rule, had it not been for your actions, would the person have died?
Okay.
So it is possible.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
All
you
right,
so
thank
much
you
for
very
your
much.
contribution. Well, that was interesting. Somebody says, good morning. Seems like no one knows he was an addict. Knows. What was his age again?
61, I think. Let me double check it really quickly. 61.
This is it's quite sad. I find it's quite sad. Quite sad because like I said, something is a little off with somebody who leaves the hospital. I see people on like social media blaming the hospital for him leaving. Okay, he leave one time. Why not put some? I think somebody says here, then why was he not on the police guard at the hospital? There's a document down there, patients' rights and charters. I'd have to double check to see what it says. If a patient wants to leave the hospital, he or she aren't they entitled to just like leaving? I've seen nurses try to like, okay, sit down, what's not. But if they want to go and refuse treatment, they're entitled to refusing treatment, aren't they? The only person who can't leave is somebody who down there that
physically can't leave.
One physically can't leave, or police bring them down there to get treatment. So you have a policeman sitting right next to them.
I think it's a rare case to see police guard for stabbings. So people get stabbed a lot, and they just go to the hospital, receive the treatment, and leave. I have known someone who got stabbed last year, and it was just in the hospital. No police guard, nothing.
No, but then in this case, the person tried to run out of the hospital the first time.
Yeah, but if the person is saying that because of the stabbing, there was no police guard, then...
No, because they were saying that because he ran out the first time. So why not put a police?
Because he tried to...
Because he tried to escape first time. Why not put somebody?
I don't know. You see, it's weird that they're saying escape. It just sounds like he discharged himself.
Just like, adios, guys.
Yeah, it does sound like he was under arrest. For him to say he escaped the hospital. I don't know.
Depending on the responsibilities of and what doctors and nurses sign on to do, I do not see the nurses and the hospital being at liability for his death though. I could be wrong, but I don't see it like right now. All right, 8 o'clock is the time. When we come back, we're gonna head down to the tarmac. We're gonna exercise.
Your time check was brought to you